All right, I'm trying something new. I'm probably going to do this for about a month or two and not stream live anymore on YouTube. So if you watching this on YouTube, you're watching this later, and maybe that's a good thing. You don't really care about live, but I just want to give everybody a heads up. If you like the live chat and everything, it's not going to be something I do on YouTube for the most part for the next couple of months. Just going to be live on Rumble, Rockfin, and Locals. So thanks to everybody who watches over there. This is an article that just came out from the Seattle Times a couple of weeks ago. I just haven't had time to get to it, but I thought it was really funny that years after we were talking about people fleeing Washington, California, Oregon, the Seattle Times has this headline: Escape from Liberal Hell. The data shows Washington, Oregon, and California are all hemorrhaging Republican voters to Idaho, writes columnist Danny Westneat. So let's take a look at it real fast, shall we? This is the article. It basically says what I just read you, which is that people, specifically Republicans, are fleeing Washington. And what I think is funny is the word really, really. Well, two words, really are. So Republicans really are fleeing Washington, which which to me says, we thought it was just Fox News that was talking about this, but I guess it's true. I guess the Republicans really are fleeing Washington. So they can't believe it, but it's true. And so that's one part I think is really funny is the title could have been Republicans are fleeing Washington, but it's not Republicans are fleeing Washington. It's Republicans really are fleeing Washington. Like it's been this rumor that everyone's been talking about, but we just couldn't confirm it until then. Now, so I thought another part of this article that was also interesting is they do kind of I will say Danny Westmead has a very good reputation with the Seattle Times and the Seattle journalists. I mean, you can be the judge of whether you think that generally means liberally biased journalism, but I thought he actually did a reasonable job with this one. However, one of the huge misses in this article, we did this video. I think it was Bill Doris and I when we did Tittle Tattle months ago, maybe even I don't know. I think it was this year, but it was definitely like many moons ago. That we did a video about. I think it was an LA TV station. One of the TV stations in Los Angeles had a reporter out talking about how people are leaving California, and it wasn't specifically like a politically, it wasn't pointing towards politics, but but they did talk about cost of living. I just never heard them mention COVID. And it to me, that's like the obvious elephant in the living room for why a lot of people over the last couple of years specifically. Now, yes, we know that people have been leaving California, Washington, Oregon because of cost of living. We know because of politics before COVID. We know that crime has driven some people out of places like Seattle, or feeling like you can't defend yourself against crime in some of these places. You'll end up going to jail if you for pre-COVID. But COVID definitely was a driving force for a lot of people who just decided, you know what, this is like the final straw. And I just think it's really interesting. It's just this, I mean, significant reason why people felt like their civil liberties were totally tossed aside and they could no longer stomach anymore living in these places. So let's read a little bit about it, okay? At the beginning, he's talking about an ad, an ad. This is, this, what is this? Black Rifle Real Estate. Okay. At first, the ad read seemed like a pandemic era curiosity, a niche political pitch playing on the red state, blue state divide. Escape liberal hell, counseled one sales video from Boise, Idaho real estate agent. Here are 7 reasons conservatives flock to Idaho. Time is not on your side. Flee the city now before the coming collapse. Read another ad for 5 acres in Moy Springs, Idaho, listed for $259,000 by a Sandpoint, Idaho company called Black Rifle Real Estate. Okay. The idea that people would pick up and move solely for politics has seemed like a stretch. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. Oh man, I'm freezing, huh? Okay, well, just pretend like I'm still talking. Um, the idea that people would pick up and move solely for politics has seemed like a stretch. No, it has not seemed like a stretch. Who has this seemed like a stretch for? Has this seemed like a stretch for you that people would pick up and move solely for politics? That is the most hilarious thing to me about this article is this idea here that, like, again, like I said, they really are leaving, and it's like it has seemed like a stretch. This is another funny thing about articles in general or TV reports when they say that it has seemed like a stretch, but they don't tell you who it seemed like a stretch for. So they don't say the idea that people would pick up and move solely for politics has seemed like a stretch for Seattleites, for me writing the article, for us at the Seattle Times, for city council people at the Seattle City Council. I mean, for who? Who does it seem like a stretch? So it's funny to read. That's like one of the things to pick up on when you're trying to separate fact from fiction, or an article that more is trying to play on your emotions, is you'll see a line that has no qualifier for who's saying this, or then you'll see a qualifier like experts say. Well, what expert? So basically what it means when you see something like that is the journalist writing the article and overwhelmingly the bias within the editorial room thinks this way. So what we should really take away from this is, for the Seattle Times, the people working the Seattle Times, picking up and moving solely for politics seems crazy. Like, we just didn't think this was happening. But I guess it is. So we finally figured it out. Okay. So that's another thing that, I already talked about that, but I just think that's really funny. It says now there's solid evidence that some people really are migrating over partisanship. Wow. Some people really are doing it. And you know who it is? It's Republicans, which brings me to my next interesting point, because they have been writing all about how people are flocking to, like, Washington and these states for abortion. I've even read articles about doctors. They would say, like, God, doctors, OBGYNs, they just have to be in a place where they can do abortions, because that's apparently like a major part of being an OBGYN. Silly me. I thought it was delivering babies and keeping them alive, but I guess I was wrong. Anyway, so they're saying that doctors are fleeing to go to these areas where people can have their abortion rights back. And so that's one. But then when they write an article about partisanship, it's Republicans. The conservatives are leaving because of partisanship. And it's a terrible thing, because if you scroll down to the end of the article, they basically say it's the end of America that people are doing this. It's basically the end of America that people are doing this. But when it comes for, like, rights that the journalist or that the media generally speaking thinks is a virtuous reason to move, that's not partisanship. That's freedom. Do you see the difference? So I thought this is a really interesting article to look at for that reason, because it just, once again, it signals this bias that sometimes I don't even think they realize it. That I don't even think they realize the way they think. They're like, well, yeah, abortion is a right. It's a freedom. So you're moving for freedom. But being a Republican, that's just politics. It has nothing to do with, like, civil liberties, being able to speak your mind, feeling like you can defend your property. And keep in mind, like, I'm not really a Republican Democrat type partisan person anyway. I the parties are very similar in a lot of ways. I'm not saying the Republican Party is great. So I would just maybe more so say conservatives. The conservatives leaving, they don't, like, they don't talk about that in the same way that people going for their abortion rights, like, oh, you're going for, like, a good reason. Because I'll show you the end of this article. It basically says that what's happening is pretty terrible. Okay, but before I show you that, I gotta tell you about how amazing my nonpartisan wine is. You don't have to move to Idaho. You can forget about the fact you live in Washington by having one of my glasses of wine. And one guy told me that this was terrible. I said this, so I just want to make sure that I get my disclaimer. It is a joke. It is a joke. I don't think that getting drunk in your house and passing out and forgetting you live in whatever state you're in is a good idea. It's just a joke. However, if you would like to support my work and have a great glass of wine while doing it, and it just so happens to distract you every once in a while, that's your choice, okay? AllisonWinePromo.com, 50% off the wines, 50% off shipping. You still got time to get it before Christmas. You can hand a printout that you ordered it for grandma or whoever else. Say, hey, I got you this. It's on its way. The wines are amazing. They are all from extreme altitude regions of Argentina. We got one from almost 9,000 feet and one from I think it's like over 200-year-old vineyard. It's the oldest vineyard in Argentina. These are like non-factory farmed wines. They're very good and they are a great way to support my channel. So check out AllisonWinePromo.com. You can also get your coffee at twinenginecoffee.com/Allison, twinenginecoffee.com/Allison, and you get USDA certified organic roasts, light roast, dark roast. There's a Caturra tea, which is tea that you brew with the fruit around the coffee bean. It's also very good. And finally, if you want some vitamin D, some omega fats, good stuff for your brain, good stuff for your teeth, you can go to greenpasture.org and use the promo code Allison10, or check out the links. There's also other links for affiliate sponsors in the description and pinned comment. Allison10, greenpasture.org, the product that I have been taking for about 10 years, fermented cod liver oil and concentrated butter oil blend. I get the cinnamon flavored gel. In case you're wondering, this is what I get. Allison10 at greenpasture.org. I healed cavities naturally this way like 10 years ago. I stand by this product. I think it's great. Okay. Check out the other sponsors and don't forget locals. If you're watching somewhere else, go to AllisonMorrow.locals.com. I'm going to pull up the chat there in a second and go become part of my editorial board. Okay. Let's go back to this real fast. What I want to show you is how they do say, this is bad news for the Republican Party, basically, because how are they ever going to bounce back? Anyway, they say, yeah, the Republican Party is not going to bounce back in Washington. And they say this is proving what is called the big sort. It's long been known that the U.S. is separating into silos, driven mostly by vocation, by age or education, or by affordability. These divisions are reflected in politics, but basically then saying now politics itself is driving force behind at least some of the sorting. It's a fever dream for Idaho Republicans to turn that state into a fortress against liberalism and American redoubt, some of them call it. Then they talk about California and how it says 75% of California expats registered as Republican after moving to Idaho, and that they don't have all the data because not everybody says what they're going to register as. Here's another interesting. What we don't know is the political bent of people moving into Washington State. We don't know is the political bent of people moving into Washington State. They don't know. How do they not know that? Okay. It's possible that some are running from the same right-wing bent of the state, the abortion ban, for instance, that is luring so many Republicans. There's now an entire cottage industry of companies catering to this partisan clustering, especially on the right. So see, they're just, it's a money-making thing and it's for the right. It's not lefties or anything that find ways to make money off of partisan politics or anything. There's another ad. They talk about a real estate company. Okay, let's go. They're talking about the income tax that Idaho has state income tax. Washington doesn't. Okay, then he says, anyway, America's still a free country unless you're a woman trying to get reproductive health services, and people may, of course, group together however they wish. Still, this can't be a positive trend in the long run. No, I mean, why would people leaving places where they have no civil liberties left? All right, that's an overstatement. They have some, but they're losing their civil liberties. That's one of the reasons we left Washington. This can't be a positive trend. Do you see how ridiculous this is? I mean, look at this, unless you're a woman trying to get reproductive health services, it's a free country. I mean, yeah, okay. So, if you're a doctor trying to practice that, if you're like me and you had a podcast on the side and the government department that you work for fires you over that, too bad. Your boss is going to run now for Congress. Actually, my boss is no longer running for governor. She's running for Congress. You're somebody who wants to be able to get a particular medicine and your pharmacy turns you down. Too bad. If you want to be able to assemble peacefully, but they don't like the cause, or you're doing it at kind of the wrong time and you say something they don't like, you can go to federal prison. I mean, but those civil liberties don't matter. But if you want an abortion, then we understand it's not a free country. We feel very, very bad for you. So then he goes, this is how he wraps up the article. This is really the coup d'etat here. Some of the founders warned about the malignant influence of too much partisanship. Alexander Hamilton called it democracy's most fatal disease. And now we're choosing real estate agents and cell networks based on it. And you know what's interesting? He also really misses the fact that yeah, we are choosing cell phone networks in some cases or VPNs or whatever based on this because we are getting booted off of companies, out of their memberships, or we're having, we're being siloed. Like we didn't choose this, and I'm not necessarily saying this is all conservatives because there are liberals who have been in my camp, Matt Orfala, for instance, right, who have been subject to the censorship machine and everything and have had this issue of government and big corporations pairing together to remove our constitutional liberties. But you know, that's why we choose businesses because first off, we don't want to support businesses that support breaking the law, the Constitution of the United States of America. So we don't want to support them financially. But secondly, yeah, we don't want to get like debanked and we don't want to get de-cell phoned and we don't want to get deplatformed. And he misses all of that. That's why we choose those businesses, based on whether they're pro free speech or pro civil liberties, which maybe they're calling conservative, but they see it as a bad thing, unless again you're going to get an abortion. It just, man, where's the person in the newsroom that could tell you this? I think just one person like me could help you see like this article is just it's kind of missing the point. And like I said at the beginning of it, it also totally misses COVID. It doesn't say anything about, I mean, it says at the very beginning, like a pandemic curiosity, but it doesn't talk about the drastic shift in people over the last few years due to civil liberties lost during COVID. The final two sentences. With political foes, it may be tempting to just say good riddance when they move out of your town because most of the people are of his political bent. So he writes to them not to, this is basically addressing Democrats in Seattle. So, it doesn't address Republicans, but whatever. It says, but the parallel states of America doesn't have quite the same ring to it. That's it. So what do you guys think about it? I mean, like I said, I thought there were some, I think he did an okay job in some cases, but he also missed he missed a lot and there's some like really kind of palm and face bias there that I think could have easily been fixed by just listening to like one person like me who could help you figure that out. So let's wrap it up. We'll go over to locals and say hi to everybody there. Thanks to again people who are watching not on YouTube because we're not on YouTube. Blanket Mom, I keep getting told that people are coming to Washington State in droves, rolling on the floor laughing. Guess they finally had to say the truth. I don't know right now. I haven't checked recently the net loss or gain on Washington State, so I don't know. But yeah, they're finally admitting that Republicans leaving, but they probably think the purge is good. Like you saw at the end, like Danny is basically saying to people, yeah, you're probably saying this is great because he knows his audience. He knows his audience is like, awesome, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. But we shouldn't because Alexander Hamilton, who they wrote this play about that liberals really like, which I still haven't seen, and I have no idea why it became such a political show. But anyway, it's on Disney Plus now, my husband says. So I could go watch it if I want. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I obviously think that Danny's he's playing to his own audience. He knows his audience is a bunch of liberals. And anyway, it says I 5x5 for video and audio until I started breaking up. Sorry about it, guys. Yeah, talk among yourselves when I freeze. And it's been going on since 2020. Well, long before 2020, but 2020 ramped it up big time. Yeah. So, and we all knew about this for a long time. Okay. And like, if you're wondering where we are right now, in case you're watching somewhere else, AllisonMorrow.locals.com, be on my editorial board. Okay. $5 a month. You get the live streams, you get the chat, you get to put questions in ahead of time for the interviews that I do, and you get a media analysis show. You get the editorial board meetings once I finally get that, which I promise you, you know what, 2024, we're going to get the editorial board meetings going again. Okay, you guys. Isn't politics affecting your business politics? Haha, they say that's Rickahite. Haha, Blank Mom says they say that like they'll let a Republican win. They just recount. Taxes, schools, gun rights. I don't know if I blacked out again, but anyway, DMSR, people who want to kill babies in the womb oppose owning a firearm for self-defense from criminals and tyranny. And yeah, I don't think Danny or many of his readers would would even understand that statement, because they would say, well, we're not killing a baby. It's not a baby. So, and then they would talk about, all like the shooters and stuff and crazy people who want to have firearms. When we don't need them, we just use knives. The cost of living is why people are moving, but they bring their politics with them. I don't think that most people that I knew who were leaving Washington were leaving because of cost of living. Many of the people had like, they were living in places they could have stayed in. I think if you were moving because of cost of living out of like the Seattle area, that was like a 2014, 2013 thing. And that was continuing. But the crescendo, the people who are moving like the last couple of years, that's totally civil liberties related and COVID. Okay. Let's go scroll down to a couple more. Totally backs up your newsroom bias hypothesis. Yeah, I'm interested and just surprised. So there you have it. What do you guys think? Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support on the editorial board. We'll see how this goes on YouTube without doing the live streams. I don't know. I've been hearing from other creators that live doesn't do very well on YouTube anymore. It kind of serves two purposes for me. I get to see if the algorithm on YouTube will wake up for my channel a little bit. If I don't censorship, as my guest and say, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. I feel like I'm blacking out a lot. All right. Thanks, everybody.